drop to get over here. Very expensive. That room is about $1,200. So we suggested concept 2, which is less because it keeps the road and cars down lower, and it lets us be more pedestrian and bike-friendly up in the clusters. This design is a step further, and it saves the whole $1,200. You can see we push all the houses down right around here. What's important for everybody to know is that this is still just a concept. None of these are our proposals that we think have to be built. Money likes concept 2. He doesn't want to lose these other building types, and he's confident that we're going to figure out funding for this. Right now, this design has a shortfall of somewhere between 18, 20, something billion. But he's working on it. This one is down to like 3 million, very easy to fix. So we could push this out.
I don't understand the shortfall.
The versus
what do you compare?
So our sources of funding that we're looking for versus the expenses of the problem.
And what percentage for cost of meetings?
We're going to talk about that. So concept 3 creates, whereas this is all field, the other one, concept 3 creates a new avenue, and it kind of takes up half of the long way of the park. But this one suggests that where these houses are being built, that this is the extension of the park, the new park, so that the total park remains the same size. The other thing I want to point out is that all 3 are proposing this community farm, which I'll talk about in a minute. And it's not essential to our proposal, but it can be a place where people can volunteer, garden, and take care of livestock. We want to have a classroom for students, an off-campus classroom for teaching. I'm pointing. Do you want to introduce yourself? The middle school has been amazing in coming up with what they would like to see here. We did a 6-week project. So we're building a sugar shack and a classroom for kids to come up and learn, and then also a classroom for adults. Waldorf on Route 14 has a series of outside classrooms. We do things like they teach how to make kimchi. And then volunteers you can have your own garden space, and there will be a farm space. In all 3 of the options.
Yep. So the difference there is that the city includes that because they want to keep the golf course there.
Right. The city gave us this very strict outline of where you can build.
But you're proposing these other things would be not preserving so much of the golf course, but the building would be.
In all cases, we have to show a trade. You can't lose the open space.
Okay.
So we could have put apartments or houses here, but we're saying let's move the sledding hill here so that houses can be consolidated. And then this one, let's keep consolidate the houses even more, and let's make this park. And Paul will tell us we have a lot to make this, so the fill can come over here and tear us apart, which the city's now asking for. The sledding hill. No, that's true. That's true. Okay, so, yeah.
A little question, given that it's a golf course and it's pesticides,
Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, so thank you. Let's actually write that down because that is important. Didn't mean to interrupt you. I did interrupt you, I'm sorry.
okay, got it.
What I would like to do to try to get us done, I would actually file this in 10 minutes and I've already used up half the time. So what I want to do is go over the questions that I've already received, and we put some answers into, and then we want to capture new questions, and then if there's any kind of left over, we'll ask more. So we're going to cover, let's just get going. Okay. So the geothermal system. We are proposing a district geothermal system, at least for the village. If we can figure out how to get it over or how to bring the houses closer, we would do that. So the idea is that wells would be drilled in the parking lots, and then the machinery would be in the common buildings. Very simple, in the basement of the common buildings. There's significant tax credits for this investment that are really going to help pay for the project. So the granite sets are another big question. I suggested granite sets in all of the lanes in the village, and they are ecological. You can easily, if a pump starts over time, or you need to open up a pipe, you can put them aside and put them back. And they do make you jiggle if you go over them in a wheelchair. But they are incredibly common in Europe. There's no doubt about it, they are not as smooth as asphalt. But most people who love building who've driven over asphalt know that asphalt does not stay smooth. So there's a trade-off there. The initial cost to date adds $2 million to the project. We've been holding that in there so far. Again, we feel like this is part of the public discussion. People not think that's important, but when we take it off, but do we make sure that that happens? There's a lot of questions like this. We could spend an hour on every single one of these topics to fully inform people, but let's call this a starting point. Another question, do people think that you might bring it up? Just
No.
Got a question about how far do you have to walk to get to your house in this neighborhood? 2/3 of the houses have parking adjacent, and then 8%, or 5%, are in that first tier where they're walking less than 100 feet, and then 200, 300, and those happy souls way at the end are well secluded at a 400-foot walk. Yep.
How many people are working?
How many people are retired?
20 years old, but because I did that, all the stuff we looked at, and there are different ways to do it. How do we do that? We don't have to tear council anymore. We don't have power. We don't need all the space we need. Also, I'm supposed to leave homeless collection. Because we're there, it's everything we need. So it's really just about when you can, most of the time. And here, we have what, 12, 15, 14, 20%. It's fine. So if you go over, nothing, something with 12, they have a drive. I've never had one, but but those are how we actually live. Who lives here? We gotta live. What's living? What do we actually want? What do we need? What do we think? Not like compromise necessarily. This is a little bit of back to the future. As I did scale, where we really had the housing that back and walk through. Big ones up the hill, and it's not so much, it's a little bit down the hill, and it's more of a cheaper. It's how it is. It's a little bit what we're doing back to the future.
We are trying to go back to the future.
Well, with the advantage, one of the things here is really important. The engineering, what we do with energy, how we do it, really.
It is.
I would not walk out of town and have that chip in it. Sure, the smoke out. It's like we are the place where I'm not after the left, after the right, after the green, after the black. It's what actually works today. So grows a sport where we need to get to the can. Well, for that, I have to do something. It's part of our common sense. Now, how would it actually work? It's other stuff engineering. We have engineering. I'll talk about all day, not right now. It's one of pretty different stuff going on right now. And it's about the incentives. Outside of this, I'm here working with work that is different from forgetting about the size of the housing, freestanding versus rented, all that aside. the engineering from the ground up, the place water to be clear and clean, we want to hope is, I don't want to say easy, but no, but really, I mean, there's a chance that new property is bad. This is, yeah, what do we do? You know, down low, that's great too, the project, but it just, it comes down to what the city wants to keep that, but we're presenting something, we're going to engineer pretty nifty stuff. I think people like it, but there's a lot.
There's a lot of people are reading it. One question is, how can row homes houses actually be mowed? And the difference is that in an area where you have 0 lot setbacks on the side of the house, you can actually own to a party wall. So you can fully own the house that you live in, including a front yard and backyard and garage in the back. So the city requires us to create an HOA for the village. And then each of the cottage clusters will probably also have their own little HOA, which will stand for Homeowners Association. Right now, we don't have the ability to just create standalone houses in the village that are completely, with no relationship. And that kind of makes sense because there's going to be expenses in the village. They have to plow, they have community buildings, possibly a common laundry. There's a lot of things that can be right.
And utilities that don't ever have. Thinking about it, that sense, there are things that much better come to mind versus
So to give an example, the blue house on the side is a green view model by Huntington Homes, and that would be 3 fee simple, fully owned homes. So the fellow in the middle does not have any side yard. And then they would belong to the Homeowners Association that doesn't have anything to do with the house. It only has to do with the common land and the common buildings that everyone's contributing to. So it's usually a lower HOA fee. We have to work on that. The city's asked us, we've been pretty busy, so. One question came in about how would garbage and compost and recycling work when you're in a pedestrian village. We're actually thinking that if we have a farm, someone could drive down with a golf cart from the compost, from the farm, and just pick up compost once or twice a week. So there are actually some advantages to living close together. A golf cart with a trailer could come through and pick up people's cardboard. The cardboard might actually just stay at the mailroom. There are a lot of details that we would like to work out in the next couple months if we're selected. Is the community farm actually feasible? There are 2 examples of co-housing in Vermont that immediately came to mind, Living Tree and Copville. What we would do immediately is get together with people who are interested in being managers and living on the farm. People like the Conservation Trust who would help us figure out how the land, the trust would be set up. And then farmers, Alan Page has already volunteered to help, as well as farm handling. So, and if we can't get this to work, we can just have community gardens up there, right? Okay. So this is the handout that I gave you. I'm going to quickly, if I can, just explain. Everybody can find themselves on this chart. You might be above the top end there, but it is the chart that lending institutions in the state determine what you should be paying for your health expenses. A lot of people in Vermont are paying more than they really can afford. It is a grim reality. I'm in that category. So it's broken down by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 person households, and then the next general category is rent, and the next general category is housing. We took the city's data, CCR, the Regional Planning Commission's recently put together an exhaustive study. We put together from all of that information a pretty clear picture of who lives in central Vermont and what can they really afford. And that summary is on our website as a document. It's called Detailed Methodology. So once you get back and figure out how many people in the community or at what level, we made this target, and I handed it out because I figured you would not be able to see that on the screen. It's very small. It's also on our website under housing info. And so you can see the red, the pinky things, those are rented units. We could not make those work out to own their home. Those people, many of them would like to own their homes, and we may be able to nudge that further with really creative thinking. Yes. I'm going to give you an example. If you're working with Becca's homes, they can provide a one-bedroom house for $90,000. Montpelier does not really want to have a modular, what they call a manufactured home in the middle of the development. So, are there ways that we can solve that? Can we put siding on the house? Whatever. So we have those are peripheral questions to try to get to the finish line. But right now, a $90,000 house might translate to something like $130,000 to own. It's very close to the category 126. You can see we've got 16 people who can afford $126,000 for a house or the equivalent rent. Right now, all we can give them is a condo, but we might be able to get that into ownership. Yep.
One of the things that I reached out to you about is I have lived in other cities in which I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for quite a while, and they had a program which was rent to own. It was people moved into a home, portion of what they were paying in rent moved towards their purchasing power of their
That's long term.
Yep.
You don't hear that.
But it's a powerful, their first home, no one can get their first home at the cost of $300,000. But to be able to say, I'll make a commitment to renting this home, I will take care of it, because it's my goal to be able to buy it, and I've invested 5 years and now I can.
They don't remember layaway, combination. Layaway.
You're gonna have,
Yeah. But no, that eventually is not here. It's a short. We don't have any more. You just take that and I think it's kind of neat. It's, it's kind of over stuff. People put them on feet. Take a lot of that. And it's just what they do. It's like, I go back to this is what I go from 1250 square foot years ago to 17 now. I'm like, we down in the room, we were very happy. And wow, we built our good, big cabin. Electricity, it's all that, some of the big grandma. Well, I don't know what's happening anymore. But that's the other thing. In Mexico, you think forever, it's so well. They got that. Well, they can try that with the market coming up. Because how they go, it's like, so at the moment, but then you start the second quarter, and we have money. It's aspiration. That's pretty sometimes as a big market. That's what happens. That's what we do. We are over there. We know what time of year there's that farm. I'm looking out there, 75 homes. I was how many projects are there? Or cheap farm out there, because that's what's only donated. Because volunteers will go 20 75 from scared people to stop that. We're not a total other things like this. This is actually government. So there's 75 little farms or your sugar house or whatever. Oh, you're my farmer in Europe, you're there's like a 900. You know, those doesn't happen, beautiful houses, so it might be free, and people, they would have one that went down the street, that was one for, all this. Oh, no, that's over there, it's close. Farming could go down all there, and build. That sort of thing is what we're open to. See, he wouldn't fix this ground up, to have a factory from one side to the top. That's what the people say, now, how are we gonna build? 300 houses from the ground up, and get possible anything here for $400. Well, intended, we should go down to the tennis court. Oh, this is how.
Hold on, just a second, Stanley,
In terms of the fiscal community, right, so there are others outside of Execusuite in Montclair down street. And down street has shared equity projects. So there are potential tools that
Yep.
kind of look like, and they're not talking about that, right? It's not
we are talking about it. So the shared equity development category.
And so that's a thing,
It's all about shared equity.
is there anything you can do that this is about practice, or maybe one of my about practice? I mean, yes, maybe no one, not doing it. And, but it doesn't have to get rich for this project. Then we can crack, right? To do this project, it works, great project, doing revenue. But it has to be the idea of what community you want to do for us. And the idea of what engineering stuff has to really work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We spend some money, we invest in different things, we put on someone else. But it wouldn't have to work. It's a rainbow project that becomes a problem, but more business. So make those efforts to do that. So it has to work. It's not important. And one of the whole customize some of these other stuff. That's not like it. Together, because no more than
I understand this. Well, and we're getting a lot of good questions on it.
I just want to say, we have to think from an aspirational point of view.
That,
There are so many people in this community, in Vermont, in America, that just don't see the hope of really getting 4 walls and a roof and not being living paycheck to paycheck, under a feet.
how many people know about that? That's it. Well, my answer is to that bucket before. And then what? If you want to put $9, somebody, you're. This is only 45 years, right? The fine idea, you know, that's pretty funny, that kid not have the ability and knowledge. The education, there's a little bit of like, that actually want to do it. Who's important to do it, it's part of it. Even though we think that, I mean, they come up and you can 3.7 it doesn't work, or maybe they'll spend a different, or as we've been now, I'm sure we're going to do it down 3 and, to find salary, our private, yeah, it's just, we have to have something to those streets, not market. There's a gift back.
Yep.
You can't take away that ability to career from the regular community, so. It's a kid's stuff. It is not. All right.
So,
That's not true. Usually we do it. We want to do it right.
so Mike, what I want to add is that this spread that you see here is mirroring Montclair's population of who can afford how many, and the number of houses are matching our natural mix. As the project goes forward and Tim starts getting actual prospective buyer, we will need to come up with a mechanism that helps, gives priority to people who would normally get pushed out. So we will be working on that, but and that is basically, and also ways to keep things affordable over a period of time. But just so that you can take this home and look at it in more detail later, we've broken down the income brackets at the bottom line, the demographics of how it is shocking to me that a third of this group that would live in this place, if they're complete match of our population, would be 1-person households, and then the other third would be 2-person households. And the rest of that is kind of 3 and up, mostly 3. What's 0 bedrooms or studios. Studio or cottage. Okay. and then you can see that the 76 rented are the pink group up at the top. And we, as I said, we're trying to feed into that with shared equity and homeownership. Right now, the lowest group that we can share equity with is 50% time. Most groups in Vermont wouldn't even try to build an own home for 50% time. We feel that we're there, and we would like to push it even further. Okay, let's keep going. This is fine. So a lot of people think, why are we making our houses so small? And why are the lots so small? And you can see some of our math here. If there was no funding, we would be spending $233,000 per house for land development. Land development is really expensive, and that is why there's funding available more and more to help. So if we can bring that down to a reasonable amount, and then our friends here, like Michael and Ace and Ken, are getting houses to be reasonable in cost, and then a lot of people are willing to give up a garage, then we can make this equation work. All right, so we've looked at this. Does everybody feel comfortable with the parts of the project? The villages to the left, the home clusters are up to the north, and the single homes are over on the right-hand side of it, which would be conservation group. Oh, hold on 2 seconds, and then the consequence of number one is that the field is as open as it kind of currently is, and it would be bringing larger houses, and that's where the apartments are and smaller condos. So they would like the safety, the large homes around the college campus, and so the idea would be that so this is the existing park, and then there would be the 3-story buildings around here, but they are between 5 and 6 apartments per building. So there would be subsidized, these would be subsidized, because they're close to services and you don't need a car to live here. As we go this way, they would become larger condos. So, and it's mostly architectural. The idea is to make it feel like it's part of Montclair. We can have a very large park surrounded by substantial buildings. And then the next one, which isn't going to show up at all here, but that is just the road question we talked about. And the third one's pulling them in. Okay, now, do you mind me to turn it over to that? Barbara, you've been so patient, sorry.
No, I just had a quick question, and at least in one of the descriptions I read, here it is, partly would be the low building, within multi-family. Is that correct?
No, not in consequence. There is a possibility. So if you would like to talk about it, possibly to other companies that would want to own and operate subsidized housing. So this in concept 3 could be the more common large apartment building, and that would free up more space over here for more land for those houses. This is all, we're at concept level. We haven't figured it out. It depends who wants to play ball. So some of those developers like Down Street have a model in the park below. We don't think it's necessary, but maybe they do. So once you're concentrating a lot of families in a very small place, you have to start thinking about where ours.
Did you say those blue buildings are subsidized buildings?
No, I'm sorry. On this map, yellow is single family occupancy, whether it's a standalone house or a row house. Orange is a condo of some sort. In other words, they're not going ground to roof. They're probably like flats. The greens are apartment buildings, and blue is mixed use. I'm sorry if I misunderstood. So these are the community buildings, and they would have apartments on the second and third floor. these would have some services we would like to have, for instance, a barber shop, we would like to have a health clinic, we'd like to have a pharmacy drop off, and we'd like to have a meal room. These seem like the most important things to offer. In the bottom of those buildings, it may be that they all, I don't know, consolidate together, who knows? And then these are the most likely candidates to go kind of larger. But right now we're showing them, we make the housing work, but these are Huntington Home, how does called Warrens. So these are 5 classes, and they would be small, like 8 or even 12 apartments per building. We're playing with actual buildings and apartment sizes. Yep.
What's surprising, we were in discussion, which I heard. About wow, these damn studios, we know all these studios. Maybe a lot of everybody says, well, your town study shows it's 86 or 72% respondents to single occupancy housing. How many people here live? 12% of people live there. They need, which are flat screens and everything. That's, I mean, you teach them how to get wrong. On the park, I don't know about all the neighborhoods. There's people have different things. And so the thing that we want to be careful about, the sooner we know these things. You right? He'll tell us, that's who it is, he'll tell us, I like this, that's, yeah, you're crazy. And that's the perfect good thing to say. We'll never be met by saying, it makes no sense. What we're finding with this stuff, it's action, you're doing churches, we've heard and so I come from a neighborhood like this, and I look back at these guys, creepy, 11, recently, look at that, it's terrible looking. I've heard. You look out for the he's all over. It's bunch of houses that were and all got, and then you come in, landscape. That's what they want, sorry, West, thank you. Sorry for the big dollar, you don't have to, it looks good up. The first one we know, right, we're called it, we're called big thing, it's not about that, again, I really know deny, I know it's don't get it. No, that sounds funny. It makes sense, but I think what you're
Would you get that talking about pesticides?
Yes, before we answer the individual questions, what I'd like to do is get a list of, so who has a question they'd like to get in before we move? Okay, is there one entrance and number 2? Number of entrances. And then transportation, public transportation. Public transportation. Found out that. Yeah. New one.
Going to looking at it, have a hard time visualizing how far how what the area you go there, you live like you can see the building there.
Right.
It's hard to visualize, and then we can roll the trees.
The trees help so much.
The trees there.
Yep.
Well,
Well, this is 400 from here to here. Sorry, from here is 400.
So it's maybe 2,000,
All of this is about a mile and a half of road.
but this is on the ground.
Yep.
The top, 2,000 feet, half a mile.
So that was about 500.
But wow, you could do, we talk about the market, and half
Yeah.
I'm just curious, this may be off the track there, but how do you, water for 300 homes.
So for drinking water, it's gonna be on the seawater. And then for the geothermal, I don't know how many wells we drill. It's partly a question of depth. All right, let's keep getting the questions on this. Is there solar involved? Yes, a lot of solar. These I can knock off right while we're doing it. A lot of solar. Wherever we can have the south, and we're actually orienting the buildings as much as possible to get south winds. The concept 3, I haven't mastered that part of it yet, but we are trying. Question?
It was answered.
All right. Steve?
What's the, why are we rolling over this pharmaceutical, rush?
Yeah.
Design.
Okay.
It's
So,
community design, not a.
right. So what I want to say, Alice, what I wanted to say to Alice and to Steve is that general questions for the city and all board developers, I need to prioritize to the back of the conversation because pesticides is not our issue. We care very much what the answer is to. We don't want to be building on toxic soils. So that is very important to us, but it's not in our scope to, because it is the city's, they are really. And then Steve, the rush, we talk about the rush all the time, like why are we rushing? But that is not our scope. Okay, so now what I want to do is the number of entrances and public transportation. We have about 5 minutes until 6. Who can stay until 10 after? Is everybody okay with that? Great. All right. Paul,
Yes.
you're on the hot seat in public transportation. I've got to do with the number of entrances. People should know that the city did an initial study getting up to the clubhouse. This is the existing clubhouse. And they left it off by saying that they're going to put in traffic light and that we would pay for it. And then we talked to Dwayne King, who's a traffic engineer, and they think this turn lane is sufficient. This is not our territory right now. This is the city's territory. And we would do a second traffic study with them. But what we focused on is how the heck do we get secondary entrances onto the project. That seems like a more fruitful discussion. So, yeah,
Well, we realize about this. Obviously, yeah. The city gives us a sense that they're gonna build this up to this point. We've been looking at other ways to access the site, including paths going down to the southwest and connecting paths going up to the east towards View and high school. Yeah, as far as vehicle access, we haven't really.
well, Paul is the one that suggested connecting this road down within the property. Yeah.
That'd be a good connection. We're talking about having some kind of living seal to come near all of that.
You have to think about if there's an accident. If there's an accident here which closes down the road, and then someone here has a heart attack and needs an ambulance, that's what Paul would prefer. So Paul would like there to be
Fire access.
fire. And I know a little bit more recently. So Mike and I have talked to this owner, who's Pat Lowe, and we need to see how things go. But that theoretically, physically is possible. We have talked to this owner, there's a little bit of pasture going up, connecting to Town Hall Road. And that is a possibility for a bike path that's wide enough for emergency vehicle. That would at least take care of the really serious issue of having 300 families with no way to get out. And there's a very expensive solution this way, and that's why we have this road going here and hold on, how you're blocking. But if we go to there, it shows up on our overall site plan, the city's, designer laid out a possible road this way, but it would have to include 2 huge bridges, which no chip funding is ready to pay for, cover. So what we thought, one possibility would be, again, a bike path for emergency vehicles. But going up the hill makes a lot more sense because you don't have to cross roads.
So this is, I mean, this is, yeah, because of this type of design, I mean, there's necessarily the design to get better access.
Right.
That easy stuff is getting all around the side of the years. That has to be worked out.
So the best we can do is actually talk to the neighbors, but we can't go very far to Ursula. So, yes,
Well, so then, somebody decided not to sell it up, they don't know what we got. Right. So there's a piece there, you don't go around the town. And I'm also local to this big park.
right,
There's Cadillac, they're good schools. So it says, hey, you're building a utility, you can go right in, you don't go say, oh, it's required, but it's gonna go, thou shalt not cover that acreage plan, it'd be patched, 50 acres, so if you don't, so great, but we're not until it gets further, we don't want to pressure, we do this with them, over top of here, we can't be a pressure than it is, that's it.
there is one really cool advantage that I recently learned is there were a bike path going up here to Town Hill Road. All of those people would be able to get down to the park and to a rec facility without having to drive. Wouldn't that be cool? And we have found out by talking to the people who live there up back more, that they go down, they snow when they get down already. So, but what they are not excited about is traffic on the bottom every day. So I think we need to be respectful and hold on and put things, in their proper order. But the tentative idea would be bike path that's wide enough, and it would have to be flat. It's gonna have to be outside down. No, there is a way to get from here to the ice rink. And wouldn't that be cool to have a bike path between the ice rink and the regular? So that's how we are suggesting that the city solve the one access issue. Besides having a super aggressive multimodal program, that's the last question. So it would depend on there are 3 levels of what would be called shared transportation. There would be golf carts and wagons in the village for the village to use. They would hopefully stay in the village, or maybe, take it around the back. The next would be car share and e-bike share. That is a progressive thing, and we don't know yet if that would be successful here. It's really
You and I.
yeah, I know.
We have too much money, too much in our car that don't need it.
How many here know Honey, Desirelli? Honey has a way of yeah. Yes, he couldn't make it, his wife had something going on. So, Honey would be our point person to start working on this, and we can start doing it as we get prospective buyers to the village to see what they really would like. Now, the third level is public transportation. So, a fixed route bus, right now, there's a bus that goes from the roundabout there in the metro clear. So, the bus is already going by the roundabout, and we just have to figure out how to get it from here. But we are not the people who do that, the city is. So we would like to work with the city as soon as possible, and the ownership of GMT is changing in 3 months. So it's a little hard to work on. That's well, there, bus, private. So the other possibility is my lot, and that is a really cool thing. That is where you call them and you can come get it, where you use an app. So micro trading is called. And another possibility would be to actually hire someone like Western Meadows as a driver between hours and 8 and 5, and then these people in the village would share that cost. So we have a series of backup plans that we're all in their infancy. We need to figure out who wants to live there. And then an interesting point is, so we have parking spaces for, I think it is 50 or 60, between 50 and 60% of the people we have in the parking spaces. Or, you ask hard questions for me to remember. I think it's, well, see, the other funny thing is there's a whole bunch of parking spaces, great, oh wait, that is not the clubhouse. The clubhouse is here. Who didn't correct me? That's a cafe.
So that's not arrival.
No, that's a cafe. It's a big building, right? Shoot. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of parking lots, spaces down there. We would like to rank second or third in how many new spaces are being provided. I wish I remembered to, I just said no.
How many different parking?
Oh, wait a minute. It's in our question. So this is what just got submitted today, and the reason why I'm so sleepy. And the answer is, Concept 3 has 445 spaces. Concept 1 and 2 have 305, include the start of the down. 300. Yeah, but that is including the parking space. 300.
The parking lot way is now next to the building.
Yeah, it's
Nothing's there.
yeah, in our concept 1, yes. Yep.
There's the parking.
Yeah, so I don't mean to get people confused about this, but the point is that while this is beginning to go out and we don't have a huge amount of demand to get a bus route up here, there are plenty of parking spaces. It's only when the village is more than halfway built out and occupied that we really seriously need to get this figured out. So we want to attack how to make multimodal work. It's really a question for all of Central Vermont. To own a car costs about $500 a year, at least, easily, and a lot of people cannot afford it. And so, all of us should be looking at that. All of us developers and the city should be looking at this part of this, because we're creating a dense neighborhood that's not in the long distance of the downtown.
That long parking lot we have, we solar panel shed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you put out the 2 spaces deep, there's no sidewalk. I think we're gonna walk this a little bit. And your cars, back there, what's going on. And there's solar there, maybe we solar, you're like, oh, okay, fine, all right, like that. Good day, you all know the day where you actually get better. But you're gonna look at every little thing, because we're not gonna do it 1,000, really thought, hey, I think that's interesting. I got that. Those things of the practice of the road, project detail, phenomenal. I know, science people just use this stuff, but you get down to nuts and bolts of full Washington stuff, you'll observe all these weird touch it. I can say it doesn't rough reference, back to that, this is actually work, we did a new park, and then we okay, well, build a 6 phase. What percentage of population do you become share riding in that? 3 years, 4 years, do I should put that for? I don't know if that's place for long, place of her. So, I think that's kind of fun.
Are you going to make a car?
I do back to you, but for the law, so we didn't have, you have 100 people. We don't even know where the share riding is coming from. It's still,
Well,
The chances of like everybody got to pay 40 years from now, that they're gonna run it out, no.
I'm sure it's going to build out the whole, I mean, and
we're actually saying aggressively in like 3 years.
If there's maybe,
it's for 3 years.
Well, 3 years.
there's other problems we would like to turn
Cindy has a question, and then I'm going to ask Tim if he has any comments, and then we're going to go on to the next one.
Just wondering about the design of like tiny houses, would people have any input in what they would want in a tiny house, because I find it.
Yep, so that is a really good question from Michael and Ace, and Ken had to go home, he has little children. So I think we would talk about when you're doing production housing, so trying to get the cost as low as possible for the 50th percentile income, you have to have that production, right? Yep, Ace is saying yes. And as we go up, there's more room for customization. Would you? Yeah. But can you add some more?
So we look at what our designs are, our design is sort of creative design for all of our system models. Online, we walk floor plan, you can see what the things are. And I think the idea was to keep costs down to, you know, do a nice design one time that many people can benefit from, so we're not having to do custom design every time. There's a lot of costs involved in that. That said, there are always options for, you know, particular kinds of built-in shelving or things that can be added as well to help to, you know, kind of develop the spaces in a personal way. And then, yeah, as you said, we always do, you know, custom design add-on to the unit. So if you're particularly interested in a particular feature, let's say something in bathrooms, in the kitchen or whatever, that is available. We can do that, but as Cindy mentioned, it just adds cost. So it's up to every person.
Okay, Deborah has a question.
I also am interested in accessing design, the design of different houses. So far, I only know about 100 homes. So
Yeah,
is the idea, if you go
on our website, there's a document tab at the top, and then you go down and choose housing info, and the front page of the housing info has a hot link to each of the companies. And the companies, for instance, Michael's brings you to a page that has all of his on one page. Actually, yours has 2 links. So you can just explore them. And we have plenty of time that we might be able to develop other models of community mass production. That's an interesting thing about getting involved early, that I want to create a green 0-bedroom cottage that we could get to down to, because 50% housing, oh, that's not very much income. The reality is they are the bread and butter of our country. 50% of people that work in restaurants, they work in Vermont compost, and they really would like to own houses. They're stable lives. They should be able to own a house. This is crazy that we tell them, oh, sorry, you have to live in an apartment for a whole life. Oh, I definitely have it. Okay.
I'm wondering about
Yes. The whole project is going to be accessible, and we tend towards smaller buildings because we like to avoid elevators. So the idea is to have a preferential system so that people who need first-story apartments or houses get them. So one-story houses or first-story apartments. So we have to work on how that's going to actually work, but it may mean that we don't end up with this denser village as we're drawing now. We don't know. That's the reason why we have this excess 40 houses.
Seriously, now, when we were at what we're talking, 100 people, 50 people, instead of 75 people, a lot. But that's
That is pretty.
No, but it is, I want to have again, you know, the master brother and friend, so my friends in kindergarten, that 900 square feet around, we give them. Yeah, pick up, over, it's all classes, my dad is not built, and it's not over, but it's interesting. I said, I was 3 people, but I that's how, and what it makes, we're friends 50 years later, 60 years later. In part of how we grew up, in density, but they wouldn't say, what are you so you know, why? You're going to fight make better for time. But it's not saying have a bang on the walls and stuff like a cat or serious.
So I don't, I don't drive on, so less than 2 years, how many thousand we must say in closing?
I'm really excited that Mike and Sandy and the team have played together this building homes, building a neighborhood community. And the focus, it's really the right steel to my player.
Thank you.
And today's also, she's talking about, be careful. So, because this is, takes a smart person to make a down.
Well, it's smart team.
It's so, it seems so simple, but it's not. It's something else. I take a lot of. They Massachusetts is another form. Then it's just going 11,000 or 3,000 stuff. If you mark it, it's better. Be better than one. We live less, we get no food space. And we kept working. So,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you all.